G'day and welcome to Tuesday Night Live, the show where we ask all the big questions but don't take ourselves too seriously. My name is Andrew Sennett. Let me introduce the boy wonder, my co-host and conversation partner Ryan. Hey Ryan, how's it going?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Not too foul. How do you like the boy wonder? A bit of Batman and Robin?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I prefer Batman over Robin, but Robin's a good guy.
Well, you're a DC guy. I thought it might, you know.
Yeah. Which boy Robin am I? Boy wonder, sorry. Which Robin am I?
I think you're definitely. Is it Chris O'Donnell or is it the lame one?
Oh, jeez.
Was that the one with George Clooney that
No,
pretty much?
that was it was someone else.
Okay.
Or you don't think I'm the holy smokes Batman?
Oh, the original one.
Yeah.
Dirk, what's his name?
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, wow, those were the days. I remember watching that show. Very camp.
Did you do anything for Easter, Senno?
I did. I helped my wife. She's a teacher. I helped her make some instructional videos for students studying English in Australia. And so she's shooting a whole lot of videos for that. So I built a green screen and did that.
Nice.
And I actually made a green screen today and painted it. So I painted Kermit green.
Nice.
How about you? How's your Easter?
Yeah, good. I was up in Gunnedah for the weekend.
Up in Gunnedah, is that Emily's family?
Yeah, Emily's family. I've got a property up there.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've been to that property.
Yes, you have. Yeah, and we marked lambs, which is always a fun experience for me.
Is that like you get a marker and you write on them?
No, it's
No?
when we stop them from having the ability to have children.
I think you're going to have to explain what you did there.
Well, what I did was not the gross parts.
Right.
I vaccinated. But
Okay.
usually it's an upgrade. Usually my job is just to pick up the lambs and give that over. But today
Right.
I actually had to do something.
Right, you had to vaccinate them.
Yeah, still
But
not the gross stuff.
There are other jobs. They had
Yeah. There are rings involved.
yes.
Let's say.
I think it's called nut cutting.
No.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's close enough.
That's family friendly, isn't it?
Family friendly, yes.
Yeah. So a good weekend all round. Daylight savings is over, so it's dark outside finally.
Yeah, it's quite jarring.
Yep. And welcome everyone else to the show as well. If you're on YouTube, please do all the YouTubey things. You know, like, subscribe, smash that notification bell, share, make a comment. All of that helps with the YouTube algorithm and sharing this show around. And if you're tuning in through the Facebook community, welcome back. This show is all about a conversation. We share real-life encounters with Jesus and big questions about life, God, the universe and everything. Although, interestingly, tonight, we're not doing that. We're actually going to change tack and do something a little bit different. But you can get involved by making comments. And if you add the hashtag mailbag, we'll take notice and include it in our conversation. Our tech people will hunt it down through the myriad of comments and get your question out there. But enough of that, let's get into the show. Right, it's back on me. I think it's time for a game.
Woohoo!
Ryan, tell us all about the game.
All right, so we're having a game that's relevant to today's conversation. I wanted to think about some mic drop moments in history.
Right.
And to play this game, we're actually going to involve the audience. So
Yep.
what we're going to do is we're going to give you a whole bunch of quotes. What we want you guys to do at home is to tell us who said that and what year. And see if you can do it without using Google. All right, and see, we're going to have a competition. Let's see who can be the first person to guess what it is. So we'll get the first one up now. And it is, I have a dream.
I have a dream
Seno.
that one day my children will be judged not by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I thought it was a dream as time gone by.
Oh, yes. Well, yes, that's a slightly different one. Yes, that's from that's Jean Valjean.
Yeah, so not that one.
I had a dream. Isn't this every horror movie?
I think so. Well, let's see. No one's said anything yet.
Nope.
What do you reckon? What's your best? Oh, we've got one person. But do they have the year?
MLK Jr. is correct, Andrew.
Well done. But can you tell me the year? No, Michael was not Jesus. AD 31.
ABBA. I thought we were starting with an easy one with I Have a Dream.
Yeah.
I've got to say this is before I was born. So if we could do before Seno and after Seno.
Yeah. A, S, and B. Oh, no.
Yeah, yes, no. Okay, I can see how seriously they're taking this game. So, Martin Luther King, when was it, Ryan?
It was in 1963.
Yeah.
All right. Well done to Andrew. I think that's 1 point to him. We'll go to the next one, which is 77 years ago.
I can't remember the remainder of this speech, but it wasn't a very long one. I think it's like 500 words, this speech.
Really?
77 years ago, our fathers, blah, 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 something, 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 and healing wounds, and government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yes, I know that part.
And I don't remember the rest. So, yeah.
Well, apparently it was pretty memorable, apparently. So.
Well, yeah.
So
but who spoke it?
Who
speeched it?
And I'll give you a clue in the year. It was 100 years before the I Had a Dream one.
Yeah.
So if you can remember what year that was.
Once again, before Seno.
Only a couple of years.
Yeah. Michael
Michael Adams says Abe Lincoln last year.
Abe Lincoln is correct.
But it did not happen in 2020.
No.
Maybe the year is too hard.
Yeah.
No, Ellie, it is not John Howard, 2004.
Oh.
Last year of what? No.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
I think we can go to the next one.
Have we got the answer out there?
The answer
it is the Gettysburg Address.
It is the Gettysburg Address, 1863.
1863.
100 years before Martin Luther's I Had a Dream.
Yeah.
Eliza asks, what even is 77, Seno?
87.
Yes,
and so he's referring to the founding of America, the war of independence, and the War of Independence was fought in the 1770s, 1776 or something.
Something like that.
It started.
You can do the maths.
And then it went for a few years.
Yes, because score is 20, so four scores.
So four score is 80 plus 7.
All right, next one. So we will fight them on the beaches.
We will fight them on the beaches.
And the clue is, I'll give you the clue for people at home.
Yep.
This is the person who Seno wanted to have dinner with, or sit down and have a meal with.
Yep.
A couple of weeks ago.
This guy's very interesting. He was one of the best speech makers in the 20th century. He was one of the first people who was paid enormous sums of money just to come and give speeches. Now every ex-US president, gets a massive amount of money to go and give useless speeches anywhere. But Churchill was famous for his speeches. He was... Oh, I've given it away.
Oh, it's all right. Well, because the Brit from Oz got it correct. He said Winston Churchill. He was off by a year, but I think we can give it to him.
Yep.
It was 1940.
1940, yeah.
This one.
It was May or June in 1940.
But well done, the Brit from Oz.
The Battle of Britain. Yep.
All right, the next one is... I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man.
I will not be lectured. I feel like it was a particular voice.
Is that your best impression, is it?
No, I'm not going any further. It was pretty bad. It was a pretty bad impression.
It's all right. I'll give off a couple.
Now this one, just to give you a clue, is after Seno. So
yes, this one is recent in comparison to the other ones so far.
Yeah. This is in all of our lifetimes.
All of our lifetimes. It's a big assumption. You don't think there's anyone who is only 4 or 5 watching this? Oh, the Brit from Oz again, Julia Gillard.
Julia Gillard.
2 years off though, 2012.
It was 2012, yeah.
2020. Or 2010, sorry. But again, I think we can give you the points. Absolutely. All right, next one up. We've got... For the pain and suffering and hurt of the stolen generations, we say sorry. Anyone that has been in high school, 10 years ago and before, would have had to have this played in front of them. They would have had to, well, at least I remember.
I feel like most school kids in Australia would have witnessed this speech.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did they do it in public school, like in primary schools? I'm not sure.
I don't know, but you'd think they would.
So I did when I was in high school. They all got me into the assembly hall and had to watch this.
You had to watch it.
Yeah. It's not Eliza Owens, Michael, sorry. She didn't say this.
Although Eliza Owens...
Ben's got it. Kevin 07.
Kevin 07.
But he didn't say it in 07.
He didn't say it 07.
He said it in 08.
Wait, yep. I feel like Ellie Owens could do for apologising for things, though. She could just apologise more often.
All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, there you go. Well done, Brett.
This one is going to be a tough one, I think.
This one is. This is a good one. I fear nothing but treachery. Feel free to Google this one if you can. I could try and do an imitation, but my accents are not very good.
This one.
Well, you think I should?
This one, as a hint, is a very.
The tech team really wants me to have a go.
I fear nothing but treachery.
I fear nothing but treachery.
This is very, very pre-Seno.
Yeah. Imagine that, but in a here's another clue, more female voice. I don't know. I feel nothing but treachery.
No comment. I feel like your voice was female enough, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. I feel nothing but treachery. So French, in case that's not good enough.
Yeah.
So I think we'll give this one only a couple more seconds. This one's very tricky.
The Wizard of Oz, no.
No. The Wizard of Oz was a man, I'm pretty sure.
I think this one was this is the hard one.
Yeah, this is the one that'll stump. No, it's not Albert Einstein. It's not yourself, Brit from Oz.
No, it is who, Ryan?
It is Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc.
1429, a year before Seno was born.
March to rhymes.
Andrew Powell said Seno like a minute ago. So you're kind of true.
I do fear treachery. Constantly.
Always. All right, let's go to the next
Don't look
one.
at this chicken.
All right. What do you reckon? You reckon you give this one, Seno?
One small... Well, this is in
it,
Seno's
right?
lifetime. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
All righty. There's the clue. We all may all make the references back to it. But do we actually know that time and peace? We'll find out. You weren't old enough to actually hear this being done live, though, right?
No, I was a bit too young.
There you go. Brit from Oz is killing it.
There he goes, he smashes it.
Yeah. Andrew Powell's got it as well, but they're all too late, and only the Brit from Oz actually said the correct date.
1969.
1969. All right, let's go to the next one. This one is... Oh, you can do this one. This is your imitation, Seno.
This is me.
How
dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Okay.
Yes.
This one, everyone should know this one.
I feel like I would say that if I'd been on a green energy boat all the way across the Atlantic. You know, I'd probably say the same thing.
It's not the Queen, Jennifer.
I would be just as outraged. It's not the Queen. I feel like everyone said this at some point, but most famously it was said by one particular person.
It wasn't Ellie Owens either.
Yeah, or Molly Weasley.
As in from Harry Potter?
Yes.
Okay, I've barely watched it, so I don't know.
You've not read the books?
I've not read the books. I've seen the movies.
Wow.
Once. I've seen a couple of times.
How many people out there have read the Harry Potter books? Because you've got to have read the books. It's no good just to say I watched the movies. That's like saying I watched the Lord of the Rings movies. That's just not good enough.
People have not read those books.
Okay, yes, I see Molly Weasley. Ronald Weasley, how dare you steal that car? I feel like that was later than 93, though, but yes. But no, not part of the UN Climate Action Summit.
I can't believe people are not getting this.
I think we're going to say, aren't we, 2019?
I think we have to, right?
It's your friend and mine, Greta.
Greta Thunberg. I can't believe no one even tried. Okay. All right, we've only got two more. Let's see if we can do it. All right, so ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Let's see what we got.
You didn't do your accent, mate.
Oh, sorry. Ask not what your country can do for you.
Yeah,
I can't do an American accent.
Yeah, well, this was one of the great speeches in politics in the 20th century. It's fairly famous.
Before he lost his head.
It is before Seno, though.
I think people are too... Eliza Owens is as close as we got so far. Some American president. But
come on, surely.
It's not Captain America. It's not John Howard. It's not
Captain America.
There we go. John F. Kennedy, 1960? Close.
Oh, very close.
I think we're going to give it to you, 1961.
1961.
He's been out by a year most times, I think. There you go.
Yep, that was the JFK inauguration speech, 1961.
Yes, Lachlan, it was JFK before he died. He didn't make the speech afterwards.
Yes.
But good job. All right, last one.
This
is the hardest one.
Right, can you do this one? Can you do this one with justice? You can do justice to this one.
No, but we're going to give it a go. Yo, Adrian! I did it!
You added the I did it. Normally, most people would just be happy with Yo, Adrian.
Oh, you got it. That's iconic. The I did it's iconic.
Hmm.
No, not Anakin Skywalker or Trump.
You need all the music swelling. Do 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 do.
Do 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 do.
No, not Donald Trumpet.
Or Anakin Skywalker.
There we go. I think we have an answer. We don't have a year though.
Do we have an answer? I missed that. Oh, there we go. Ben's come in. Rocky Balboa is
Rocky
correct.
Balboa. The year was 1976.
It was.
That's the year the first Rocky film was released. He had to work really hard to get that script up, and then he had to really campaign hard to be cast in the lead role. They didn't want him, the studio. Yeah.
There you go. All right, well, that's all I got for the game today. I think we can pretty safely say that the Brit from Oz won that.
Oh, yeah, he smashed it.
I think.
Yep.
Everyone else is way off.
Yeah, so as you can see, our theme for tonight is words, speeches, famous speeches. And some words do span generations. They don't lose their power. I mean, that I Have a Dream speech is still powerful today. We will fight them on the beaches. We've just had a few years where we had movie after movie about Churchill and in the Battle of Britain. Those words, they don't lose their power and meaning. They feel universal. We're going to hear some of those words now as we listen to Amelia. It's time for story time. Take it away.
Hey, I'm Amelia, and I'm going to share a famous passage in the Old Testament where God shares the 10 Commandments with his people. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything, in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them, or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you, to keep you from sinning." The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites this. You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any gods to be alongside me. Do not make for yourselves gods of silver or gods of gold. Make an altar of earth for me, and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, your sheep and goats and your cattle. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar of stones for me, do not build it with dressed stones, for you will defile it if you use a tool on it. And do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed."
Thanks, Amelia, you awesome person. And be careful about exposing your private parts. Well, there you are. That's the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments is a speech that has stood the test of time. These words spoken by God to the nation of Israel around 3,500 years ago still ring true today. They are words that shape our world. But what makes this such a mic drop moment in history? Why do we still remember these words in popular culture today when so many other great words have disappeared? Well, first, I think it's because this is the moment that God himself speaks directly to people. Plenty of people claim to speak for God, but here it seems as if God claims to speak for himself, with no one dancing in the middle. A whole nation, hundreds of thousands of people, stood together at the foot of a mountain in the Middle East and heard the voice of God, at least so they say. A worthy moment if you're into that kind of thing, and even if you're not. But more than that, this speech is powerful because of what God says. These words describe an integrated moral view of life in the world. That life is about two things, basically, love for God and love for neighbour. And that the two things are intricately connected. I think it's fair to say that most of us would be familiar with the second half of the list, commands 5 to 10. They're things that we know, because these commands have been so influential in our culture, even up to today. Honour your parents, the place of family in society. You shall not murder or commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbour. And you shall not covet. These things are either principles that many people still seek to live by, or are actually written into the laws that we follow day by day. We recognise their simplicity and their justice. And if you've ever wondered what has made Western nations different, what makes them unique in the world, the Ten Commandments is a big part of that answer. It's why this speech is so important, because it's part of our shared history together. This speech is the reason that we respect property rights and we have laws about copyright and patents. It's the reason we demand truthfulness from our leaders and in our courts. It's why we expect that people ought to be able to walk the streets at night and be safe, and why we're outraged when they're not. We take these sorts of things for granted, but they didn't just happen. They weren't just natural. They have their roots all the way back in this speech. We know this second half of the speech pretty well. But what about the first half, all those commands about God? Are they important? Because it kind of feels like we can pick up the second half of the list and just ignore the first half. I want to suggest, though, it's not that simple, because it turns out that they're linked together. And the further that Western countries move from belief in this God, the harder they find it to respect these other commands as well. We find it harder to hold on to the sanctity and dignity of human life. We compromise on truthfulness and on theft. I've got a book on my shelf called The Art of Lying, which says that lies are more important to our lives than we think and are good for us, and it teaches us how to tell a good lie. And honestly, that's how most of us tend to live, isn't it, in the social media world? We build up a facade, a false version of ourselves. This is what we let the world see. We leave the real us hidden. But is that healthy in the long run? Well, I guess we'll find out. It might be worth asking yourself the question, though, where would I be without the Ten Commandments? And what will it mean for my life if I let them go? But there's a final point I want to make, and that is that the law brings freedom. Commandments free us to live well. They're freedom for life. Boundaries are a big topic in psychology today. We talk about setting boundaries for kids that enable them to thrive. The idea is that basic rules for life don't hold kids back. They give them freedom to explore life and to grow without getting into trouble they can't get out of. And even us adults tend to do better with boundaries. We pity or look down on adults who don't have boundaries. They're pitiable people. The real question isn't whether we should have boundaries or not, but what boundaries lead to real human flourishing. What boundaries are best for us? We tend to think of the Ten Commandments these days as rules that hold us back. But might they be the boundaries that give us clarity to succeed in life? Might there be more to them than we think? In any event, Ryan, I want to ask you a question.
Hello. Go nuts.
Yep. How do you react to this speech? What's your reaction to the Ten Commandments?
I think I have a lot of different thoughts about it, but I think my first thought is only 10.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's so many things you could say, but
Yeah.
like 10's it's a very nice number.
It's a round number.
Yeah.
It's very metric.
You can very easily
Before the metric system.
You can very easily divide into 2 tablets. So, so I have that question: is like why not more, or
Yep.
why is that? I think
Why these ones and not others?
Yeah, I think
Yep.
because there's a whole bunch, but yeah, these ones seem particularly. I don't know. It feels like they're particularly important. They definitely feel important in terms of what it's meant throughout history, and tradition and all those kinds of things. Yeah.
I wonder if there is some bigger reason there that these particular commandments frame a whole lot of other things. That when you extend them, you tend to talk about a lot of things. So, you know, respecting the property of your neighbour is very important, and you get all sorts of property rights laws and those sort of things there.
Yeah.
You get things like, you know, if I'm a content creator, then I own my content, and I should be able to, and other people shouldn't be able to steal that. That's an extension of these commands.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that I find really interesting. That idea that that there's some sort of principle underneath these laws.
Yeah.
That are meant to be would you frame it as the real idea rather than like there's the idea of do not covet or do not steal.
Yeah.
But the underlying thing is, hey, people have rights to own whatever they own, and it's not yours to take.
Yeah, it seems that there's more things under there that are assumed by the commands, that the commands entail.
Yeah.
And one of them is that people can own things in the world, those that may be products of their labour, or things that they've purchased, or things that they've inherited, but they belong to them.
I think one of the most interesting things, it's like you spoke a bit in your monologue before, just about the freedom that comes with laws, but particularly this one, like the context, in case people don't know, is that God has just rescued them from Egypt, from slavery. Yeah. And it's not that God gave them the laws, and if they followed it, then He'd rescue them from slavery. He's freed them. Yeah. And now He's going, and now He's given them these underlying principles. Here's how you live as a free person. And I find that really fascinating, I think. Yeah. This is what it looks like to be a free man or a free woman. Do that and you'll remain free. Yeah. Kind of idea.
Yes. And I think there is a connection there, isn't there? We often think, following the commands is just a way of currying favour with God. You know, if you keep these commands, you'll be blessed in the land. I think there's a kind of a truth in that. But I think there's a profit from living out the commands themselves anyway. That is, they come with their own reward. To live this life, and if a community lives this life together, they will be a prosperous but also a healthy community. They'll have good relationships because people respect and honour each other. People aren't stabbing each other in the back. They're not lying about each other to get ahead. They're not stealing. They're protecting each other's lives and respecting and honouring one another. So I think when you look at them, you can see the germ of a great community, and that part of, I think, the blessing is actually living these things out.
Because you can imagine a society that actually followed these to a T. Like you can imagine how prosperous it would be. Yeah. But I like Michael's question. If we can get that up, because we talk about the importance of these things. So Michael's question is, why are some of the commandments more detailed and explained, whereas others are just given a single sentence? Yeah,
I don't know.
Does that make it more or less important?
The ones that have most explanation are the first 4. the first command has an introduction and the other commands have other things to be said. I'm really not sure. It might be because the other things make more sense as in themselves. The commands about loving your neighbour, but you need to actually understand what the loving God entails. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Yeah. Again, it makes me think of when it's relatively simple like that. It makes you force you to see what's going on underneath that.
Well, it's one of those funny things, isn't it? Because we often think today we've got a mortgage on awesomeness and all the best ideas, and you often hear modern people say, "Oh, we can do better than the Ten Commandments. We can get it better." And the classic one is that don't be a, I can't say it. It's a naughty word on YouTube. But don't be a bad person, basically. Don't be bad to each other. Or the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Bill and Ted, be awesome to one another. Be excellent to each other. It's like all we need to say is just that. But what do we mean by that? What does that say? When I say love your neighbour, what do I mean by that? And there's a whole lot of ideas underneath that. And we end up coming back around to these ideas. And so I do think that these 5 or 6 things that they talk about in terms of loving your neighbour are just key things. They're key things, basic things that we can extrapolate from that actually talk about what some of the basic things are. I think they're incredibly neat, simple.
So speaking of that, Lockie asks if you can define what it is to covet. What would be your best way to describe
to
that?
covet is we would tend to say to be jealous for, but to desire, to seek after, to want.
Is it particularly to want what's not yours?
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's to seek after or want something, desire something that is not yours to have. Yeah.
And again, that comes to that idea, like the underlying principle is what you're talking about, the earning the fruits of your labour.
Yeah, that's right. That each human being has both dignity and agency, and you can see that here in the commands themselves. Just the fact that God, when He speaks, requires us to act. You shall act in this way, which says to us that we have agency. We have a choice to make. We can either do or not do. That we have agency. That we have dignity. That needs to be respected and honoured. And that God respects us by saying these things to us, by giving us this framework. Yeah.
We've got another clarification question. How do you misuse the name of God? This is Kelly asking.
Yeah. I think the irony is that we often think it's by saying God's name badly. And so we talk about when people use the name of God as a swear word, that sort of thing. The ancient Israelites used to think it was saying the name. They didn't want to take the risk, and so what they did was instead of saying the name of God that He'd revealed to them, they substituted a different word in. And it's like it's like seeing a word and just using the word wheelbarrow instead of that word. I walked down the wheelbarrow, and what did I see? It's like and so every time they saw the name of God, they replaced that name with the Hebrew word Adonai, which means Lord. And they did that so much that they forgot how to say the name. And so it's like, we don't know how to say it. It's where the name Jehovah came from. It's actually a kind of a mishmash of those two words, the vowels of one word with the consonants of the other. And so, yeah, their answer was don't say the name at all. But that's not what God's answer is. What you see in the Bible is that God's answer is that to misuse His name is to misrepresent Him in the world. And so it says that God's name is blasphemed among the nations because of Israel, because of the way they behave and live.
It's about His reputation.
Well, because God has tied His reputation to these people. He's saying, "You have my name. I've put my name on you."
Well, that's what He says in verse 2. He says, "I am the Lord your God."
Yeah. Right? I have branded you. You are branded with the name of God. It's like that's your branding. You are the like it's like the Nike, whatevers. You are the Yahweh, the God people, and so they misuse the name of the Lord when they basically turn his name into a byword. Yeah, that's a really good question.
What do you think it is about this that makes this speech so powerful and enduring? Why do you think it's lasted?
I
throughout
do
the-
think it's partly because of the simplicity of it, because it's simple power, it's simple justice. The words make sense. Their clarity, their comprehensiveness. Even with these simple commands, you can extrapolate a huge number of things, and certainly Israel does. They have a whole lot of laws that are basically just an application of these things. Yeah.
Yeah, because Exodus doesn't stop here, does it? It kind of goes on for a little bit, and then there's Leviticus and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And would you say they're like expansions of these 10
Yes,
laws?
I think a lot of them are. So there's lots of different commands. So there's hundreds of different commands in the Old Testament. Some of them are about sacrifices and that sort of stuff, and how to be clean or holy. And some of them seem quite arbitrary, about mixing different kinds of cloth and mixing different kinds of crops and those sort of things, and commands about mold and all that sort of stuff. And so there are some that seem arbitrary. There are some that seem to be about healthiness, that sort of thing. But a large number of the commands about how people treat one another are just extrapolations of these commands. Yeah.
I think we've got one more clarification question.
Sure.
Is murder different to killing?
Yes.
And how so?
Murder is the unlawful taking of life. Killing is just the taking of life. And so killing can be just or unjust. So a government can choose to have a death penalty, and if they do that, they're not doing that unjustly. That's not murder to say that the punishment for a certain crimes is death. It is the right of a government to do that. We've chosen not to do that, but and also that the same goes for police and for soldiers in war. Their roles are complex and difficult, and they'll be put into situations where at times they need to take someone's life, and that is not murder. It is deemed to be legal if it's done under the right circumstances, if it's done legally. Yeah.
Lockie's got a further question on that. What about things like killing in self-defense?
It's exactly right, yeah. And so there is all murder is killing, but not all killing is murder.
What about, so there's another one in the chat, what about euthanasia?
Well, there's
okay?
a complex thing. I disagree with euthanasia for lots of different reasons. I don't, but once again, there's going to be a difference here, isn't there, between, I guess, what we think morally and what our country does legally. And I think this is one of those moments where we're actually departing from the spirit of these commands, because we're departing from the first half of those commandments. We'll get back to that in a minute. But the euthanasia laws, I think, are an expression of the fact that we've stopped respecting, on the whole, the dignity of human life. And I understand there are complex issues around it. I understand a lot of the big emotional issues around it. And I've taken care of someone through their dying months, and I understand that. But I do think these laws they don't respect. But there'll be a moment where euthanasia will be legal and deemed by the government to be a lawful killing. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of good questions, and we'll try and get to the rest of them in question time. But I want to talk, Senator, in your what you were saying before, you said that you don't think we can do the latter half of the commandments without doing the first ones.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that a little bit more? Like,
I'm not sure I really do.
Or is it impossible to
Yeah.
love your neighbour if you're not loving God?
Yeah. Okay, look, I think can you do the second half without doing the first half? Can you love your neighbour and not love God? Well, yes, of course you can. Of course you can. People endeavour to live these lives all the time. But there is a reason that they go together. And as a culture, as we forget the first half, as we forget that there is a God who made the universe, a God who we're responsible to, a God who actually speaks into this world and gives this world shape and meaning and moral meaning, as we forget that, we begin to forget those commands. And I think the laws on abortion and on euthanasia and on all sorts of issues are a reflection of the fact that we no longer have that idea, that first half of the Ten Commandments, you like, to anchor us. And so I think there is a reason that they go together. And I do think that as a culture, you'll see us departing that. Now, some people are going to be happy with that. Many people will go, well, I rejoice, I'm happy. And I think there'll be a lot of people in that boat. I'm not happy, and I don't think it will produce a great society as we abandon our belief in God. And so, yeah.
I think personally, as you, if you want to say that I want to love my neighbor, if you want to say that stealing's wrong, I think if you run away from the idea that there is a God and that God has these ideas of the fruits of your labor, if that's not the reason why you think stealing's wrong, then I think it's really hard to have a leg to stand on and to go, well, why can't I just take what I want?
Yeah.
I think when you don't have I don't know what the word is, some foundational idea of why things are the way they are, it's really hard to say, well, this is wrong. Like, I shouldn't murder someone, or I shouldn't steal this, or I shouldn't want that, even if I don't deserve it or need it.
Yeah. And so, these ideas they're around us all the time now. We just don't tend to see them, and we tend to make assumptions about where our ideas of moral truths come from. And if I could transgress for the show and talk a little bit about philosophy for a moment, there, most of you have heard of a German guy named Friedrich Nietzsche in the 1800s. He's famous as the philosopher who talked about the fact that God is dead because we killed him. We've killed God with our thought, in that sense. We've kind of deemed God to be dead, to be irrelevant. And because of that, he said, we need to be brave enough to live in the new world. If we've killed God, we actually need a new morality, because the morals that we live in the Western world were shaped by God. Our laws are still shaped by the Ten Commandments, and the way people act is still shaped by those commandments. And what Nietzsche said is we need to be brave enough. If we've killed God, we need to be brave enough to live in a world without God, and we need a new morality. And his idea was that the root of morality or of moral thinking is power. And so you often see that kind of idea travelling around the world today about power being at the heart of human relationships, and causing a whole lot of difficulties and problems. But really, that's actually living out this new moral framework, this new world where God isn't any longer relevant to us. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's a bit to chew on for now.
Yes.
We'll give you guys a bit of a break. Toilet break's going to come up now, and we'll see what happens after that. We'll have a mailbag. We've got all these questions, and we're going to try and get to as many as possible.
Brilliant.
So let's go to toilet break. It's time for mailbag. I like those signs. I think they're pretty funny. Caution tomatoes was my favourite one. We're going to go straight into it. In order to not run out of time, our first question up for you, Seno, I believe is from Michael. Have we got it?
Kyle.
Oh, from Kyle, sorry. Where did the Mr. Andrew Sennett sign come from?
I believe Laura had it right in the comments. I used to work for CSIRO, doing research many, many years ago, and this was the sign from my laboratory door that told people who I was. It was very important.
Yes.
Sometimes I needed a reminding. And when you leave, obviously, they don't have any need for the sign anymore, so you can take it with you when you go.
Nice. Cool.
So it follows me around.
Yes. Ben says, R.I.P. Mr. Wisples. I think he's gone.
I'm a bit disappointed nobody's asked me about my map, my special map.
Oh, yes. You better ask him, otherwise he'll be very sad. But we'll give you some time to do that. If you want to get the next question up, Michael would like an explanation of that last verse in detail.
Yeah, let me read it, because I think it was profound and important verse from the Bible. You've always got to take the Bible seriously, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what it says. Do not go up to my altar on steps, lest your nakedness be exposed on it, or as Amelia read it, as your private parts will be exposed. Your naughty bits, the dangly things. It's a really important verse. I feel like what's at the heart of that one is we don't want people giggling when we're meant to be worshipping God. I feel like that might be the heart of that instruction. Could be wrong, but I think if I was down the bottom and someone's climbing up and I could see the dangly bits, I'd be having a giggle. And I'd be nudging Ryan next to me and going, hey, you see that? Go.
All right. Well, Kyle finally asks, what's with the map? Oh, so does Andrew Powell.
Oh, what's with the map? Well, did anyone recognise where the map is from?
Can we see it properly? Can we go
to full view, Seno?
Can we get a full view?
There we are. Does anyone know where this map is from? What it's a map of?
I don't think so, Seno.
No?
We'll give
people... It's a famous map. No, Laura says there's no laughing with God. That's not right. There is laughing with God. God's got a great sense of humour, but he just doesn't want people giggling at this moment.
So don't walk up the steps, is what Kyle says.
Lesson. Well, we're in closed pants.
All right, well, I think we'll move on to the next question.
Okay, it was a Discworld map.
Discworld.
It's a Discworld map. Map of the Discworld. Anyway.
Our next question is from Laura. So rules, guidelines, boundaries, which is right? And what does that mean then in how they apply to us?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think I used those words a bit interchangeably, didn't I? They're commands, and so they're instructions. They're instructions for how to live. But those instructions, what I'm suggesting is they form boundaries or limits. When I say respect your neighbour's property, don't covet your neighbour's property, that then tells me a little bit about how I should treat my neighbour. That what my neighbour has worked for and owns is theirs, and part of loving them is respecting those things, and it gives me a framework for how to live. And if I'm not doing that, then I can live in a good relationship with my neighbour in lots of other ways. So yeah, I do have a friend though that says he talked about a sign. He once saw a sign on a bus right on the driver's window, and the sign said, "Do not enter bus by the driver's window." And he said it had never occurred to him to enter the bus by the driver's window, but when he saw the sign, he thought, I reckon I could do that.
I have to do it. I have to do it.
I want to give it a whirl. Yeah.
All right. Next question from Ben. Does the do not give false testimony command mean all lies, or is it only related to giving a testimony like in a courtroom? Yeah,
it's really, really significant, isn't it? So it's certainly about not officially lying. Do not tell lies about your neighbour in court. That will get them into trouble. So don't conspire against people like that. But quite obviously that is talking about a life of falsehood, a lie, those sorts of manipulative things. And so you can pull that out and talk about a whole range of things about truthfulness in life. Because at the heart of somebody who actually gets to a point where they stand up in court and tell a lie about someone that condemns them, is somebody who begins to tell lies, isn't it? Somebody whose life is not truthful. It speaks of a particular circumstance, but that circumstance has a whole lot of other things going on around it.
I think we've only got time for a couple more questions.
Sure.
So we'll keep pushing through. Is there ever a place where lying is acceptable? As from Natasha, like at a bar when you're being hit on by a creepy bloke.
Wow, that's a really good question. Yes, yeah. I feel like the creepy bloke scenario is an acceptable lie. People often tell the Nazis are coming looking for Jews and you're hiding Jews in your house. Is it okay to lie about having Jews in your house? And I think, yes, it is. And certainly you see that with God's people in the Old Testament. There's that famous, hilarious lie that the midwives tell when Pharaoh says, kill all the Jewish boys that are born. And the midwives say, well, we try, but they're just so vigorous. They're born before we get there. And it's a hilarious lie.
This is 20 chapters before what we're reading tonight, right?
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Exodus 1.
So I do think that that there are circumstances where lying may be appropriate. But I wonder if that's one of those things where the exception proves the rule. The fact that there are circumstances where a lie is perhaps the only right way to act, or the only way to act, tells you that that's an exceptional circumstance, and that the general rule for life is truthfulness.
I think we have a couple more. Does Jesus' commandments to love God and others from Matthew overrule the 10 Commandments? No,
and we're going to get to that. I'm going to hold off on that question because we're going to get to exactly that scenario in a couple of weeks' time.
So hold on.
Yep.
All right, I think we've got 2 more questions I think we only have time for. If we can. It's hard to choose, isn't it? But it's even though we're not going to get to all your questions tonight, the good news is that next week our entire show is going to be dedicated to trying to answer all of your questions, or as many as we can, all the way back from week 1.
Perhaps we'll wear some funny hats.
Yes. I might wear a funny shirt. People are talking about that.
Right. I did this in honour of the rule, see? Don't look at this chicken.
You failed.
Have you
I
lost
the
the
chicken
game?
Multiple times.
Right. So
we've got the next question up though, Seno.
Yep.
It's from Lockie. So how am I to honour my mother and father if they reject God's commands?
That's a very good question. I think that's in some ways relatively easy. Honour is about respect. It's about the honour that parents are due. There'll be lots of things in your life that you may disagree with your parents about, particularly as you gain adulthood and actually move out into the world. You move out of the sphere of your family. I think as a child, honouring your parents means obedience. But as an adult, what does it mean to honour your parents? I think it's still about respect. It's about listening to them, even when in the end you disagree with them and go a different way. That's what I would say.
Okay. Well, I think we've got time for one more question from Natasha. Why do you think we've been so quick to disregard the 10 Commandments?
I think it's because we disregard the first 4. This is actually a great question because it gets, I think, to the heart of it. I think the reason that we're marching away from these commandments and the structure, the moral structure they give to our life, is because we've abandoned the commands about God. We've turned away from God. Not so much certainly individually we do that, but as a community we're doing that. And as a community, as we move away from honouring God, we begin to lose the honour of one another. Because if there is no God who made me, if I turn that channel off, then what are we? What are you, Ryan, but some other animal who's in competition with me for resources? At heart, at root. And so I may still choose to treat you morally if it suits me, but there'll be no inherent reason in you. There's no inherent dignity in you. There's nothing in you that deserves or demands my respect, my concern. And I can use you if I feel like it. I can do what I would want. I will construct a different morality, and it'll be constructed around me because there's no God to say for all of us what objectively, and this is one of the issues, is that we're moving away from this objective sense of moral truth. And so when someone says, well, it's obvious, isn't it, that this is morally right, it's no longer obvious. We all kind of go, really? Well, I'm not so sure that's true. So I think that's one of the reasons that we're actually abandoning our belief in and our respect and honour for God. Which is why we're doing the show, isn't it? It's why we're actually having this conversation. And it's what really a lot of the words of Jesus are about. It's one of the reasons we actually kind of jumped away from Palestine this week and following Jesus around and had this conversation, because it puts things in context. The last 2 weeks we've looked at two big commands of Jesus, love one another, love your enemies, and don't be so judgy. And those two things have their foundation back in these commands.
All right, well, I think that's all we have time for today, but thank you.
Right.
Thank you for the audience for your amazing questions. We will get to them next week. That's the plan.
Hopefully.
That's the plan,
Probably.
at least.
With a funny hat.
With a funny hat.
Thanks again for joining us. Please remember to do all that YouTube stuff and subscribing and liking and notifications and things. It does make a difference. Keep those questions coming. We really enjoy it, and we hope it makes a difference for you as well as you think about who God is and what he means for your life. See you later. See you next Tuesday night.